It's that time of the day when you hook up to the power circuit, proudly brought to you by the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, to keep you informed about progress, milestones, and more about the power sector. Here is a specially packaged lineup for this edition. Federal government introduces scheme to boost electricity access for farmers. TCN completes reconstruction work on vandalized transmission tower in Akwa Ibom. You'll also be seeing a spotlight on how TCN and security operatives are tackling illegal sand excavation around power lines in the Federal Capital Territory. I am Amara Agogoesi, taking you through this program. The federal government has launched the Energizing Agriculture Program, EAP, to improve access to electricity in rural farming communities.
Speaking at a program launch in Abuja, the managing director of the Rural Electrification Agency, REA, Ahmed Salhijo Ahmed, highlighted the success of its programs, saying REA has focused on programs that will have significant impact in rural communities.
So for us, the key priority remains that we ensure that we deploy these solutions in rural communities and we measure the impact to ensure that that electricity is used in a productive manner. So going forward, we intend on the Rural Electrification Agency to use this strategic position to convene a working group for agricultural development and electrification, where all relevant stakeholders will continue to gather, exchange ideas, collate information, and actually translate them into pipeline projects in partnership with the RMI. So the structure is that we're working hand in hand with them, so we're part and parcel of the entire process. So we sincerely appreciate that sort of support.
The REA also said accelerator teams will deploy equipment that uses mini-grid electricity to solve pressing agricultural problems around 5 mini-grid sites for each team within an 11-month period.
We have also combined the expertise within the Managing Director's office, and I would like to stress that it's also been institutionalized through various directorates like the Rural Electrification Fund, the Technical Services Department within the REA, meaning that this is a program, if successful, would be institutionalized and would be delivered in a sustainable manner.
The REA program will be done through a steering committee working with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development with funding from the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet, GEAP. It will support farmers on energy-based agro-processing and irrigation tools like solar water pumps, among others. The Special Assistant to the President on Agriculture, Dr. Andrew Kwasari, said the program launches apps and complements other projects like the Solar Ninja to create impact in rural communities.
I think this particular program wouldn't have come at a better time than now because of key lessons that government has learned in trying to enable development, especially rural development, that has to be evidence-based and data-driven. So from the agri perspective, having worked with REA on the economic sustainability plan, the COVID-19 response of government of Nigeria, we have carefully looked at certain lessons and data that has been generated from that project. Subsequently, the federal government has adopted to expand for the next 4 years few projects that were part of the economic sustainability plan. Basically, the Solar Niger, the Agriculture for Food and Jobs Plan, Rural Roads Development, and these programs and mass housing are to run for another 4 years from 2022.
The Director Engineering and Mechanization in the Ministry of Agriculture, Engineer Abdullahi Garba Abubakar, commended the program, noting that there are 26 value chains which the steering committee meeting can work with the ministry to energize agriculture outlets within the value chains.
This program actually fits into what we are trying to do in so many ways. In the Federal Department of Agriculture, I have 26 value chains. Those 26 value chains, there are those we can even tap to see how we can energize agriculture. So this partnership, I'm sure, will bring to fore what can we do in the long run. And I want to assure you that the team from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture will bring its wealth of experience to the steering committee to see what can be done in the shortest possible time.
The country representative, Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet, GIP, Mohammed Wakil, said this is probably the largest investment on energy in Nigeria by GIP since its launch in 2021, noting that the alliance look forward to supporting the REA on the program over the next few months.
Its expected impact is greater than simply electrifying rural communities, but stimulating economic growth, creating green jobs, and improving the lives of many ordinary citizens. The Global Energy Alliance is proud to be supporting REA, and we look forward to successful implementation of the program over the next few months and beyond.
The program director, Rocky Mountain Institute, Suleiman Babamanu, said the firm has designed plans for the project implementation while collaborating with partners.
The Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, has completed the reconstruction works on the vandalized transmission tower number 104 on the Odubani-Ikote-Bene 330 kV double-circuit transmission line in Akwa Ibom State. The Executive Director, Transmission Service Provider, TSP at TCN, Engineer Victor Adewumi, stated this when he visited the site of the incident at Okuiboko community near Uyo to assess the level of the repair works at the instance of the Minister of Power, Engineer Abubakar D. Aliyu. Here is the rest of the report.
Engineer Adewumi, while briefing newsmen during his visit to the site, said work was ongoing to fortify other towers minimally vandalized along the same line route over 3 weeks ago to enable the restringing and tensioning of the 330 kV double-cycle transmission line and then energized shortly.
So you can see the tower is back, but there were challenges, during restringing. We are back to the normal way we want to do it. That is by lowering the conductor right from the tension tower. Because the tower you are seeing, they are just suspension tower. They are not designed to withstand load. So we have to start from the nearest tension tower to the other tension tower. And that is what the conductor is trying to do now, using rollers to bring the conductor up to the required height. It's not going to be easy. And that one, no matter how you try to fast track it, it takes time. Because you have to use rollers. And if you are not careful, you might end up collapsing more tower because of the weight. So you have to balance the forces from one face at one end of the tower to another face at the other end.
He noted that the collapsed tower was not the only one vandalized and that restringing the transmission line involves bringing down the 330 kV DC line on some suspension towers that were minimally vandalized.
The contractor has to equally work on other towers. This is not the only one that is vandalized. The only thing is that this is the only one that came down. Other ones are vandalized, so the contractor has to work on those towers to reinforce them so that they can withstand the strength during pulling. So that's what he's explaining. So he's not only working on this tower, he has to work on other towers. Now as you can see, this is the highest point. This is the highest point, of the land. Other towers you can see they are below. So meaning that the weight on this particular tower is much. That was the reason why the tower came down in the first place. So we have to be very, very careful so that we don't create more problem while trying to solve one.
Engineer Deumi assured that when the power transmission line is energized, the evacuation of over 400 megawatts stranded power at the Odupani power plant near Calabar will begin, as well as the restoration of power supply to Cross River State and parts of Akwa Ibom State.
When we are saying we don't even have enough, then we have about 400 megawatts trapped. Odupani is about 400 and something, capacity generating station. And they have gas as we speak. So meaning that they can generate even up to their full capacity. So you imagine the quantum of power that is being trapped now.
Engineer Deumi appealed to the public to help TCN in the fight against the vandalism of power infrastructure, saying that such acts are detrimental to the Nigerians and the expansion of power infrastructure in Nigeria.
So this is the reason why we are appealing to the general public. It's very, very easy to destroy. It's very, very easy to damage, but always very, very difficult and challenging to build. I'm sure it doesn't take more than probably one day, vandalism for this tower to come down. But you can see how many weeks we have wasted trying to, rebuild back the tower, even using the fastest method. So we are appealing once again to the general public that all the critical infrastructures that passes through their area, they should take ownership.
He also assured residents of Cross River and Akwa Ibom states that the company was fast-tracking the completion and restoration process.
I want to appeal to all the stakeholders, the NDPAC, who are the owners of the Odupani, whose generators are being stranded now, to the Port Harcourt Disco, because they were here, and that was what the contractor is trying to explain, that they are putting a lot of pressure on him. Yes, because the whole of Calabar is out. There is no way the whole of Calabar, which happen to be within its own franchise area, be out of supply and we keep quiet and remain comfortable in the office. So everybody is waiting for us to complete this line and then restore back power. So we are equally appealing to the whole of Akwa Ibom, Cross River State, because they are mainly affected. Akwa Ibom State, part of their area are equally affected. We are appealing to them to please be patient with us. We are doing everything to make sure that this tower is completed and supply gets back to the public.
The power circuit continues in a moment. Please stay on.
Do you know that vandalizing power infrastructure and stealing its components have negative impact on government's efforts towards improving the nation's power sector? Say no to vandalism. Vandalism leaves TCN with the enormous task of re-erecting and restringing damaged power transmission lines and towers, which cost millions of naira to rebuild. Money that should be used for transmission expansion projects to make increased bulk electricity readily available to electricity consumers through the distribution companies. Do you know that vandals are destroying our common national assets, funded with taxpayers' monies, and negatively impeding our common socio-economic progress? Say no to vandalism. Do not condone vandals, because stealing parts of electricity transmission towers and cables disrupts the transmission of generated power to distribution load centers, threatening the national grid, your comfort, and ultimately the nation's economic growth. So don't just walk away. Be involved. Do something when you observe suspicious activities around transmission installations or even vandals at work. Don't just walk away. Report to any transmission office closest to you or any security outfit around your vicinity. Say no to vandalism. TCN enjoins you to work with us to stop the willful destructions of our collective national assets as we work to transmit increased bulk electricity in the most efficient and effective manner. This message is brought to you by the Transmission Company of Nigeria. TCN, transmitting bulk electricity for national development.
Did you know that all the areas around the power transmission line has been properly acquired by the federal government and is termed the right of way of the line? That means no activity such as trading, building, or soil excavation is allowed within this area. Engaging in any of these activity poses a threat to the operation of the power infrastructure. Come with us to a section of a 132 kilovolts transmission line at the Kuje area of the Federal Capital Territory, where there was a recent case of sand excavation around the power line.
The 132 kilovolt power transmission line in the Kuje area of Abuja plays a key role in delivering bulk power to the entire Kuje Area Council and thus makes it a critical power infrastructure. In spite of this critical role and the duly acquired right-of-way for the power transmission line, some group of persons who have feigned ignorance deployed heavy-duty earth-moving equipment and trucks to evacuate sand under the line. Officials of the Transmission Company of Nigeria (TCN), which manages the power transmission system, as well as men of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps (NSCDC), were on ground just in time to witness the act of sabotage. Some of the sand evacuators were arrested by the operatives. The security operatives on the 182 kV transmission line route around the Centenary City just by the Kuje axis comprise a reinforcement of the Joint Task Force, which consists of the police, the army and the civil defense operatives that arrived at the site to apprehend the illegal sand miners. The Assistant General Manager Technical Services at the Abuja Transmission Region of TCN, Engineer Mahmoud Suleiman, told Chief Bitrus Yakubu, the head of Guofe rural community near the critical power transmission line area, that the actions of the illegal sand miners were detrimental to the development of the country.
Up here, up there, this belongs to CCN. The same thing the other side. Now you have already creating water this thing. So with time, if the Sabi downfall, it will continue to eat towards the tower side.
Chief Yakubu said he never knew the extent of damage until he was brought to the site.
He said
that it was when they called him now that he saw the extent of the damage. Because that tower is part of the line that is supplying them light. And apart from that, there's health implication there that might even affect them. Yes. When the way that they did not tell him they were close to the grid. That's what he's claiming, that he was not told their digging was so close to them.
Aside the village head who said the sand was evacuated for the sand filling or filling station project, the other suspected sand evacuators paraded by the security operatives spoke about their roles in the activity.
What were you doing there before you were arrested?
My driver.
Working for
Lube.
Working for which company? You are the driver of that. Which company are you working for?
No, not your company. I drive by more. I go buy motor for me. So not your company.
Yeah?
Okay, you the deliver. No, my driver. You are a driver. Yes.
So a company. Is
it a company?
What is the name of your company? You don't want to call the company name.
Company. Na person get down. Now, what's the name of the person? Usman get to know.
Please, what about you?
Okay, my name is Solomon.
Which company are you working for?
No, it's my organ that sent me to go and just see what they are doing in that place.
Organ from which office?
So, I don't actually know, but his name is Barnabas.
Okay. Oga, what are you doing there?
Okay, my name is Edo Samuel. I have a friend, his name is Femi, he's in this complex now, who I came to visit at that site. So as at the time you people came, he went out So I was trying to explain to the man, in fact, I can't answer any question as regards that borrow pit.
The Acting Deputy Commandant General, Directorate of National Critical Infrastructure and National Assets, NSCDC Headquarters Abuja, Basi Obasi, spoke about the menace of sand evacuation, vandalism, and the encroachment of the right-of-way of power lines.
One of the core mandates of this corps is for the protection of critical national assets and infrastructure. And the tower that has been one of the very critical national assets of this country, the corps has a mandate to protect it. And where there is people who are going around to vandalize or do things that affects those lines, the corps has the duty to arrest and prosecute any vandals or those who are seen to do anything that will affect those tower lines. So our mandate as it is to protect those assets from being vandalized. And those vandals, some of them do it out of ignorance, that those who are excavating sand by the tower line. Some of them do out of ignorance. Some of them do it out of just sheer criminality, because what they will gain from the tower lines if they are being brought down. That what happened in Cross River Akwa Ibom lines, that the tower was brought down by criminals and they affected the national grid.
The officer said the corps has continued on surveillance of these critical assets towards arresting suspected vandals and illegal sand evacuators.
We have in this directorate a department of surveillance and monitoring. Apart from the regular personnel that we deploy to TCN, we have a department that goes on surveillance and monitoring of all critical national assets, not just TCN lines, or other infrastructural facilities of government, other critical national assets of government, of the federal, state, and local government, or even private infrastructure that would, if vandalized, would affect the economic well-being of the citizens. That is our duty. So we have a seamless synergy with TCN on the protection of our assets.
You would agree with me that sand excavation around power infrastructure poses a huge threat to the existence of those facilities. Join the government in tackling this menace by reporting such cases to the nearest security agency. You would be glad you did. That is the much we can bring to you today. Again, here are the highlights. We told you that the federal government has launched a scheme to boost electricity access for farmers. TCN completes reconstruction work on vandalized transmission tower in Akwa Ibom. We also brought to you a spotlight on how TCN and security operatives are tackling illegal sand excavation around power lines in the Federal Capital Territory. We would love you to always stick with TCN, and so we have provided episodes of this program on the TCN YouTube channel. There are also more platforms that you can visit for further inquiries about TCN. Report all suspicious vandal activities to the nearest security establishment near you. And together, let's keep tackling the menace of power infrastructure vandalism. I am Amara Agugoisi. Thank you for staying with us on The Power Circuit.